Hello, everybody. We've got, Daniel Montgomery. We've got Charlie Bright, Rob Licuria, and Ralph Galvan here to talk about some of this week's Oscar hot topics. We're in the middle of the awards season. SAG is behind us. The PGA awards are behind us. Several more awards to come. So, there are several topics that have been discussed on our website in our forums that some people are interested in seeing how they affect the race, and we'll start, I guess, with Julianne Moore. She seems like she's really far out front for the Best Actress Oscar, and she has recently, come out as sort of an atheist. And Ralph, why don't you tell us more about that controversy, if you can even call it a controversy, and tell us a little bit more about what's going on there.
Yeah. I mean, you're right. I don't think it's much of a controversy, but it's getting some heat on our boards. It's a thread that was started asking if Julianne Moore had just told the Hollywood Reporter that she doesn't really believe there is a God out there, and that she kind of feels that she has completely created her own life. And to quote her, she said, "I learned when my mother died 5 years ago that there is no there there. Structure is all imposed. We impose order and narrative on anything in order to understand it. Otherwise, there's nothing but chaos." So they're asking, do you think her religious beliefs are going to affect her, or, the way voters vote for her at the Oscars? I personally don't. I don't think it really has anything to do with it, but I don't know if you guys think it may.
Well, first of all, I would have thought that might have given her more votes because, like, amongst all the godless heathens of, the Academy voters, generally, they're all bleeding heart liberals and they're all generally from the same part of LA, unless you get, a few groups from New York and other Britain, whatever. But religion, like, they're all like sniffing coke off people's backs and things. They're not going to church every day. They're not. This is not the Republic. This is not the presidential race. This is the race to win an Oscar. And I don't think really. I can't even believe this is a topic. I really can't. And I thought most people shared this view. I didn't realize that she was, really espousing a minority view. So I actually think it helps her that she kind of spoke out and just said something really honest about her opinion. So that's my view.
One thing that I think should be clarified is if you look at one of the more prominent anti-theists, which I guess encompasses atheists and agnostics in Hollywood, I guess the other more prominent one is Bill Maher. And you look at how those two conduct themselves. Julianne Moore isn't going after anybody. She's not attacking anybody. She's just stating simply her personal viewpoint. And one thing I think that that Hollywood is more diverse than a lot of us think. Although if you look at this year's Oscar nominations, it's kind of hard to tell. There are black people and women do exist. What's interesting is that. What's interesting is that, a lot of times when you watch the Oscars, when you watch the Grammys, one of the more consistent things you will see are people will be thanking God or thanking their creator when they accept their awards. Maybe not as much in the acting categories, but a lot of times you'll see that happening. And I think it won't hurt her because she's not being disrespectful to anyone else's faith or anyone else's personal viewpoint. And I mean, honestly, if you want to go with stereotypes, the other stereotype is that Hollywood is overwhelmingly run by people who are Jewish, and really atheism is just really another form of Reform Judaism. So it's all pretty much the same anyhow.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure about the Academy, but I feel like with her statements like imposing structure on a chaotic world, there's no there. She has cinched the lead role in Lars von Trier's next movie.
You're in. Yeah.
And also, I mean, the Academy is not about just rewarding people that they agree with. I mean, Clint Eastwood has been a very I don't want to say he has been very frank about his conservative viewpoints, and he's won 4 Oscars over his life. So it's by no means a very monolithic. If you don't believe what we believe, we will shun you.
Yeah. Like maybe if
And I
Julianne Moore
think
throws a phone at somebody at the BAFTA, you know, in the hotel before the BAFTAs, maybe she might then lose a few votes like Russell Crowe perhaps did a few years ago. If she does something stupid or says something really rude and ridiculous, like Benedict Cumberbatch said something stupid last week and he had to apologize for it, maybe if that happens, she might lose some votes. She's so far out in front that she could pretty much do anything, I think, at this point and still take home that trophy.
Well, I think that's the other thing about this is that the Best Actress race this year is so dull that it's not really that interesting. That I think some people are trying to look and see if there's anything that can really shake it up.
Mm-hmm.
She's not even going to the Oscar luncheon. That's how far out front she is. She doesn't even it's not that big of a deal to her. She's like, I'm gonna wipe the floor with that Oscar. So I mean, and it's true. And it's just a dumb thing to even. I don't know. I think Charlie brings up a good point. I mean, it didn't hurt Clint Eastwood to be so Republican, and American Sniper did phenomenal. They don't care about that, so I think it's a non-issue.
Though it was weird that he wasn't nominated, but I don't think he contributed that to his conservatism. Sorry, Daniel. Sorry.
No.
No, I was just saying. I think the American Sniper thing you mentioned, it does point to something that I think is true of the Academy, and maybe even Hollywood as a whole, is that it wants to look liberal, but it probably leans a little farther right than it wants to look. This is the group that picked American Sniper by and large over Selma in most categories. And remember, the demographic is old, rich, white men. So the conservative tilt there is almost ingrained to a certain degree. So while I don't think they're going to be giving that much money, other than maybe Clint Eastwood and Kelsey Grammer to the Republican cause, I don't think they're the lefty pinko commies that them is. I think they do sort of probably lean a little bit to the right. But again, this is Julianne Moore probably has this in the bag. Probably. I mean, never say never, but she's not losing this.
No.
So I think we're all probably agreed on that at this point. There is another thing that might hurt another contender that we can move on to and talk about. Eddie Redmayne, who right now looks like maybe it was Michael Keaton who was the Best Actor frontrunner. Maybe it's now Eddie Redmayne all of a sudden after the SAG win. But he has a potential Jupiter Ascending problem, which he filmed a couple of years ago, and it was scheduled for last summer, and it's been pushed back, and it's coming out now in the midst of Oscar voting. Is it going to hurt him? Is it going to derail him the way Norbit did to Eddie Murphy? I don't personally think it'll hurt him that much, but what do you guys think?
It's tricky. I'll say this and then I'll let one of you guys jump in. But first of all, Jupiter Ascending, it does kind of feel like or smell like, probably using the best adjective, like a huge turd is on its way. And I'm worried for it because I love the Wachowskis and I love their movies, and Cloud Atlas for me was one of the best movies ever. I loved it to death. Now I'm expecting it to be awesome, but it's like so negative at the moment about this movie, and if it comes out and it's really widely ridiculed and panned, and Eddie Redmayne is playing like the evil Eddie Redmayne character, I'm a bit worried about that. I don't think it really hurt his Oscar chances though, because all they have to do is watch The Theory of Everything again and just see how incredible he was in that film, and how transformative he was, and hopefully they will forget about Jupiter Ascending. But if it's a really big deal and people like make it out like it's the end of the world, it's the worst movie ever, and let's talk about it and ridicule it and point at it, and it becomes a big story, it's certainly not going to help him. And I just want to say one more thing. I don't think Norbit really hurt Eddie Murphy as much as we all like to think it did. I just think that year there was just someone else who was able to take the trophy away from him, and that's really the end of it. I really believe that Norbit, Eddie Murphy's made a lot of movies like Norbit before, and it's, did they just forget all of a sudden and expect him to be the greatest actor in the world? No. And so I don't think the Eddie curse, which is not a coincidence, I hope it doesn't affect him this time. I don't think it will.
I gotta disagree with you there, Rob, because you got to remember with Norbit. First of all, Eddie Murphy had a reputation, and still has a reputation, of being someone who is kind of difficult and not very likable. And so, even though yes, he had won the Globe and he won SAG, the ads for Norbit were everywhere. And I'm speaking of someone here in D.C. Every commercial break, there was an ad for it. It was on the side of buses. I can only imagine what it was like in L.A. and New York with billboards. This awful, awful movie that you could just tell. You didn't even have to see the television advertisements. You could tell from looking at those posters that that movie was going to be awful. And you can imagine someone in Los Angeles with their Academy ballot looking at Best Supporting Actor and then seeing that billboard and going, "Oh God, no!" I mean, that.
Yeah.
I mean that.
Do you really think he lost the Oscar because of Norbit?
Yes.
I just think that is absolutely ridiculous. I'm sorry.
No, I'm with Rob on this one. I think there are two
my
distinct
God.
differences.
I
Because
also think that his performance, but this is me personally, I personally thought that his performance in Dreamgirls was kind of overrated. I thought it was nothing more than just an extended cameo.
yeah.
Didn't Alan Arkin win that Oscar, though?
Yes.
It was Alan Arkin from Little Miss Sunshine. That was the overdue geezer vote. It happens all the time. And he was wonderful in Little Miss Sunshine, and he was always on the cusp. So it wasn't
And
like
let's
it was
remember-
like a Julianne Moore situation.
Eddie Murphy actually starred in Norbit. Like, Eddie Redmayne doesn't star in this film. He's a supporting player. It's not his face that's out there that's on the billboards. It's Mila Kunis and it's I'm blanking on what's his name.
Channing Tatum.
Thank you, Channing Tatum. That are the stars. And also, like Charles said, Eddie Murphy doesn't have that great of a Eddie Murphy and Eddie Redmayne. If you ask an Oscar voter, which one would you rather go out to a drink with, or which one would be nicer to you? I'm pretty sure they're all going to say Eddie Redmayne because he's just a really nice, lovable guy, and what's his face, Murphy wasn't, and so I think those two distinct differences this is completely overblown. I think it's a non-issue, just like the Julianne Moore thing is a non-issue.
The other thing I think that needs to be mentioned about the race with and the difference between Murphy and Redmayne is that regardless of what you think of whether Norbit and the ads for Norbit cost Murphy that Oscar, Murphy was the face of that movie. He was the face of that movie, and it was his name. It was just his name. Redmayne is a person in that movie. I think there are a couple, and Channing Tatum and Mila Kunis have larger billing than him. He is not the face of that movie, so it is not going to be just, oh, he's the thing. He is the thing with that movie. So we're going to single him out. That's not going to happen.
Okay.
I agree that this is going to be different than Norbit. I agree that Norbit derailed Eddie Murphy, and I think the reason is not because, all of a sudden an Oscar nominee or winner does a bad movie. It happens. Not Jennifer Aniston, obviously. Sandra Bullock. Won Razzie and Oscar in the exact same year. The difference is that Eddie Murphy had been doing lots of crap for years and years and years and years. Then Dreamgirls was his comeback. That was his creative resurgence. That is, he's back with a vengeance. And it's that off-screen sort of, narrative that matters so much in this race. That's Matthew McConaughey going from the terrible rom-coms to serious actor. And if Matthew McConaughey, after proving that he's serious about his craft, comes out the next February, he's trying to compete for an Oscar with Ghosts of Girlfriends Past 2, that derails the narrative. That suddenly it's not your comeback, it's just this blip, and they're looking at, Academy Award winner, potentially, Eddie Murphy in Norbit. Yeah. And that was a crushing blow to him, I think. And the geezer vote for Alan Arkin, I think, definitely did help Alan Arkin. But I think the reason Eddie Murphy didn't carry on through that momentum and they picked Arkin as that viable alternative is because they did not want to look at Eddie Murphy do this one great thing and reward him for it, only to have their Oscar brand attached to the guy in Norbit, and who looked like he was going to go right back to 50 more terrible things like that. Whereas Eddie Redmayne, he filmed it a couple of years ago. He's done a lot of film work, but he has, until now he hasn't been really seen as a prominent leading man. So I think voters, especially, I can't think of, there's probably no members of the Academy who do not have turds on their resume. They'll probably chalk this up to a young actor, a promising up and coming actor, still paying his dues at kind of an awkwardly timed moment. The Theory of Everything is who he is now, and ending, even though it's coming out now, is still sort of him building up to Theory of Everything in a sense. Yeah. So I don't think they're gonna hold it against him, but that might be actually a good time to segue, to review the Best Actor race overall. We've got Eddie Redmayne winning SAG. We've got Michael Keaton winning the Golden Globe and Critics' Choice. And they're both competing against each other at BAFTA. And then, of course, you got Bradley Cooper, and it's going to be really hard to gauge where Bradley Cooper rates in this race because he's not nominated at those precursors, so we don't know how he stacks up against this competition. So Eddie Redmayne, Bradley Cooper, Michael Keaton, what's going on with Best Actor now? Who is winning it? Fire away.
Steve Carell all the way.
Oh God, no way! Somebody.
I think Eddie is I don't know. I mean, I've had Eddie Redmayne since I sent you guys an email months ago when he won the Palm Springs Critics Award or whatever, and I said just lock it up. This race is over, right? There's no race. I've had him number one on everything except for SAG. I thought he would lose SAG to Michael Keaton, but so did everybody except for Rob and Tom in the whole world. So we were wrong on that one. But I think in second place, who I've had since before the Oscars, since I saw Sniper at a screening, is Bradley Cooper. And I think it's for the reason that in one of the Slugfests we had, Daniel brought up a good point in that this is his third in a row. And it's crazy that the Academy will give you 3 Oscar nominations in a row and not at some point want to reward you for it. And also, we haven't seen him in any competition with these guys. I know he hasn't been nominated in these precursors, but American Sniper came out of nowhere. It's now well over $200 and almost $50 million at the box office. Ballots go out this coming week. I mean, it's hitting at all the right times. I don't think he's going to have enough to go over Redmayne, but I think Cooper and his likability, his 3 Oscar nominations in a row, definitely at least make him a strong second place to kind of upset. I think Keaton's just in third. I know it's Birdman and it has the most Oscar nominations, but I think just especially given SAG, I mean, I think that was a huge hint that he didn't win there. It means that they like the movie, they like him, but there's not much support for him internally in terms of the actors vote. I could be wrong though.
Well, I think you're onto something there, and in fact, I was saying Eddie Redmayne as well. I sent that around the same time that you were saying it, and then I switched it for about a week after Michael Keaton won the Globe, only because I was so impressed with his speech, and I thought that would have made an impact. And then I cooled on that straight away, well, a week later, because I just wanted to focus on the performances, and that Redmayne performance is just the kind of thing that they love. And it's so reminiscent of Daniel Day-Lewis in My Left Foot, and so many other performances where these actors really do transform and become this real person. It's a biopic. It's just everything. It's just exactly what Oscar voters lap up. And so, and I thought the SAG voters would be in the same boat, and I really toyed with that one. And thank God Tom was also championing it. In fact, maybe not. I was a bit worried because then I started thinking about Moulin Rouge, but that's another story. I love you, Tom. But no, really, I just thought actors would just completely eat that shit up, and they did. And I think he's so out in front that it's not even a contest. However, Bradley Cooper 3 in a row, that worries me because in fact I would love to see him win. I love Bradley Cooper, and I think he's really great in American Sniper. and this is something I want to talk about maybe later if we have time, because this whole American Sniper thing actually really concerns me. I'm not sure where it stands at the moment. I don't know whether it's still a controversy because it's supposed to be glorifying the killing of Muslims, or is it not a controversy, it's just a big patriotic love fest that everyone is really enjoying. I'm not sure where we are at the moment. But anyway, Bradley Cooper would be a great deserving winner. It's like Russell Crowe having 3 in a row. He won one of those. Why not Bradley now? If he gets nominated again after this year, then surely he would be just so overdue that he'll get it no matter what he's doing. But I just think if he gets called out on Oscar night, I won't be totally surprised because, just because of his narrative. But it just seems that in terms of the performance, it's like this Redmayne performance was just made just for the Oscar. It just seems so tailor-made. So anyway, I'm so confused about this whole thing, I've got to say.
Oh, where to begin? I gotta say, I have an issue with saying, because Bradley Cooper has gotten 3 Oscar nominations in a row, that he's somehow overdue. I mean, he's still very young. He still has quite a career ahead of him. And, just because he's delivered 3 solid performances 3 years in a row, and they've all been nominated, and that's a great thing into itself. But just because of that doesn't mean he's overdue. I'm very anal about that. It really bugs me. It's like Christopher Plummer was overdue when he won his Best Supporting Actor Oscar at the age of...
Can I just interrupt you for a second? Because
No,
too bad.
I am paying for this microphone, sir.
No, seriously. Overdue means this. Last year he was nominated for American Hustle. That was generally quite a surprising nomination, generally speaking. Yes, it was.
Yeah,
he wasn't a shoo-in. He wasn't a shoo-in, a nominee for American Hustle. It means they really, Sally Field really like this guy, okay? He got nominated again. No one else nominated him. I know American Sniper was very late in the piece. It just means that there are a lot of people in the Academy who really like him, and that means that I think he is bound to win eventually because he just has a lot of support. That's what I mean. He's not overdue. He's young. Yes, you're right. He hasn't done 100 movies. Anyway, please continue.
And that is exactly my point. I'm not taking away from the strength of his performance. I still have not seen Sniper, and from everything I have heard, the performance itself, yes, it's solid, and I'm not making any qualms with his performance. I'm just saying the idea of him being overdue based on just 3 performances in a row is something that I think is it's hyperbole. It's hyperbole, and I know we use hyperbole a lot. For Christ's sake, we're in the entertainment business, but it's one that just bugs me. With regard to the Best Actor race overall, though, I honestly really don't know what to do with this. This category is just as confusing as when we were to me as when I was trying to pick nominations for this damn thing. I'm looking at BAFTA, and I see Birdman and Theory of Everything. I think both have 10 nominations there, and I'm just trying to figure out who wins there, because I can honestly see Keaton winning there. I think he has a very strong shot to win there, but of course a lot of times they do go with either British, or I should say non-American performances. They'll go a lot of times for foreign language performances like Marion Cotillard or Emmanuel Riva. So I really just don't know what to do. I'm half thinking that Ralph Fiennes will win BAFTA just to screw with us, but
that'd be great.
Yeah, that would throw this race into a really interesting thing. Then right after the BAFTAs, there's nothing else for acting until the Oscars, and I could still see Keaton winning. I don't know. Right now I have Redmayne winning, but I'm probably just going to alternate until I see what, until my magic 8-ball tells me something else.
Man, if Ralph Fiennes wins a BAFTA, I am going to Uzo you all and pick Bradley Cooper, and then you guys can all watch Bradley Cooper win that Oscar. That will be my Redmayne does not win the BAFTA, that would be insane.
Right. That's a really good point. And also, I just like, are we only saying Redmayne's such a lock because of the SAG? If Michael Keaton had won the SAG, would we be even talking about Redmayne anymore? I have a feeling that it's all about the SAG, and that's what's making us all so excited about this Redmayne being so out in front.
I think it altered the race overall, but I think Redmayne would be a very strong case to still win at BAFTA because he is British, and a lot of times the Brits do love the BAFTA does love rewarding either the non-Americans, whether it be a lot of times Brits or Australians sometimes as well, or other European actors.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think just because of SAG everybody is all of a sudden on the Redmayne bandwagon. I mean, I know personally for me, I thought Keaton would win the SAG, and I thought Redmayne would win BAFTA and the Oscar. They both were obviously going to win Globes. I don't think it was ever. I think it was just made it more of a heated debate. But this just solidifies more. I think that Eddie is pretty far out front. And like you said, Rob, just look at the performances when you pop in the DVDs. You know that they will do. Look at what Redmayne did in his, not to take anything away from Keaton, but that it was a great performance, and I think Daniel, you wrote the article on the comparison between Daniel Day-Lewis and Eddie Redmayne, and I mean if you read that too, the comparisons are pretty great there as well.
Well, I would also, if you want to compare Michael Keaton's to an Oscar-winning performance, I would look at Peter Finch in Network. Someone who's just slowly losing their mind in a world that doesn't care about them anymore. And so I think that there are still aspects there that the Oscar voters will respond to. And I don't think we've seen this kind of race where these types of, things for each performance are check marks for Oscar voters go head to head in years. And that's what makes it so fascinating.
Yeah, it's interesting. I wonder if we could see a situation a little bit like, and this happened for Best Actress in the year of Chicago, where we saw at the Golden Globes, there was the split. There was Nicole Kidman and Renee Zellweger both winning Golden Globes, and then Renee Zellweger won the SAG Award, and at that point I thought, okay, it'll probably be Renee Zellweger, and then Nicole Kidman came back to win the Oscar. So I think there's still room for a Keaton victory. I do think he's a possible winner at BAFTA. I think Redmayne is out front there, but I don't think he's indomitable just because he's British. I was predicting Redmayne for, after I saw the performance, I was predicting him for weeks, if not months, to win the Oscar. And then I sort of switched at the Golden Globes to Michael Keaton because I thought, okay, Michael Keaton, not because of the speech per se, but because I felt like when he was giving that speech, I sort of felt his narrative, his Oscar narrative sort of solidifying. It's like he is he's the comeback kid. He was sort of in that Eddie Murphy position in a sense, where they want to give him a welcome back hug. So I thought, okay, he'll probably win it, and so I thought that meant, okay, SAG is his, and maybe even BAFTA would be his, and then Redmayne won SAG, and it's not a slam dunk just because he wins SAG, but every SAG winner for the last 10 years has won Oscar in the Best Actor category, so it is a big deal. Especially when you consider that being the British contender, he is naturally has the advantage of BAFTA and might carry that momentum. But I do think, I said before the SAG Awards, the best thing that could happen for Bradley Cooper would be a win at SAG for Eddie Redmayne, because he would need that race to split up between Keaton and Redmayne for him to have room to move through. And now he does. And I agree with Charlie that him being nominated for the third year in a row isn't really so much a factor. I mean, tell that to Al Pacino, tell that to Paul Newman, tell that to Richard Burton, all these actors who, of even greater esteem, who had to wait years and years and sometimes never won. But the fact that he is headlining such a monumental blockbuster hit could be sort of sort of the blind side of this race. And it's peaking at exactly the right time. So yeah, it is really confusing. you know, if Bradley Cooper wins, I probably won't end up predicting him, but I'll kick myself anyway because the signs were all there, and the signs are all there for Eddie Redmayne, and there's still reasonable it's still reasonable to believe that Keaton will pull it out. So it's legitimately a three-way race this year. I think you know, last year, you know, with McConaughey sweeping through everything, you know, this is definitely going to be a little closer. This feels a little bit more like Meryl Streep, Viola Davis, that sort of close race. But it's between three people now instead of just two. Yeah, which actually brings us to, you know, we've got a couple of more awards next week. We've got all these initialisms coming up. We've had the PGA, the SAG Awards, you know, the Ace Eddie Awards were last night. You know, the ASPCA awards are coming up or something, and the QVC awards and the you know, AFI LGBT awards.
The PBR awards, the PBR awards,
the AVN awards in Las Vegas.
Yes. We should be talking about those. I don't know why we haven't.
I don't know why we don't have it in the prediction center. I honestly don't.
Oh my god.
Yeah, but
talk about a group that likes to reward sequels.
But I think the big one, I mean, you know, BAFTA, they've switched to the Oscar voting methodology where they have the individual peer groups vote for nominees, and then they have the entire membership vote for the winners. So I'm not sure that will tell us things that we don't already know.
Oh, did Daniel freeze there?
He looks like it. Let's just give him a moment. Hello. And you're really onto something there, Daniel. Damn.
Slapped us all in, you know, into surprise. So, and you know, Birdman, even though Boyhood had that 12-year production, which is, you know, groundbreaking, Birdman definitely, when you look at it, feels more like the director's movie. So, you know, with the strong predictor that PGA is for Oscar, we now see the door open that, okay, maybe it's not Linklater, maybe it's Iñárritu. In which case, I think if Iñárritu wins DGA, the film having won you know, the SAG Award for Ensemble and especially PGA, I think it's game over. I think it's Birdman. So what do you guys think? Do you think this could seal it for Birdman, or are we just going to go back to sort of the Boyhood train?
I think it would seal it. I would say yes, because you would think we would learn this lesson after what happened with King's Speech versus Social Network. But it's so weird that if let's say that Iñárritu does win the DGA award next weekend, it just seems so weird that, you know, it would be King's Speech in reverse, where you know a movie that is, you know, very optimistic overtakes with the King's Speech overtakes the very cynical, dark movie like The Social Network, and in this one, the more optimistic movie, you know, Boyhood, that touches on these universal themes of growing up, and also if you're a parent raising children. Is overtaken by something that is very dark and cynical about the entertainment industry. So I'm still trying to wrap my head around that if that happens next weekend.
Look, I don't know where to begin, because I've been complaining about this Oscar race for months, because I've just been finding it a little flat, and that's because, in my opinion, the films in contention this year probably not as strong as other years. That's just my own personal view, and so that because of that, I'm finding it really hard to get excited about some of these races. But I've got to be honest, at the moment, in the last couple of days, I've really been getting into this, because these are genuinely open contests. Some of these are. I mean, Best Actress is not, probably, and neither is Supporting Actress, and maybe even Supporting Actor, but yeah, I think they're both pretty locked in. But Best Actor and Best Picture and Best Director are so crazy, ridiculous, open, really, more so than maybe we're giving it credit for, because if Iñárritu wins next weekend, then there's the two big ones for Birdman, and I still think it probably will lose to Boyhood, because I don't know why, but I just think Boyhood is going to win Best Picture regardless of what happens next weekend. But at least it opens it up even more. If Linklater wins, it doesn't mean that it's completely closed off either. I just think all these precursors are going to mean not too much. I don't even know how to really enunciate this on a very dusty Sunday morning for me, but I've got to say that I think a lot of these races that are open are going to go their own way regardless of what happens next weekend and in the precursors leading up to the Oscars. And that's, if we see some American Sniper wins that weren't really telegraphed by precursors, then that's one example. I think if Iñárritu wins next weekend, he could still lose Best Director to Richard Linklater, and the reason why I think that he will carry the day on Oscar night is just because of the achievement he was able to put together over 12 years. That's just such an amazing narrative, and I think they're all going to really, really lap that up more so than this really edgy piece that Iñárritu was able to put together. So I've got all these thoughts running through my head at the moment, and I'm really, really confused, and I just don't know if the precursors are going to give us as much guidance as they usually do. So that was really my way of saying who the fuck knows.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm not ready to jump. Even if Birdman takes BAFTA, I'm not ready to jump on this Birdman train quite yet. Maybe after that I'll give it more thought. But when it winning PGA, I mean I know it's a huge shock. I didn't think it was that big of a shock, just because what else would be number 2 if it wasn't Boyhood? Maybe Grand Budapest, I guess. But I think with the preferential ballot system, the way it works, and how, if you have like a top 3, let's say, I think if you're an Oscar voter, I would be more inclined, especially if it is, they're all around 60 years old or over, it's like 79% male or whatever the crazy stat is, they're more inclined to put Boyhood in their top 3 than something like a Birdman that may be a little too outlandish for them. A guy flying around in a bird suit. Maybe some of them won't get it or won't care. So I'm still on the Boyhood train just because of the relation factor, the likability factor of the film, and you're kind of rooting for people like Patricia Arquette in the film, and the boy himself, and so it's I'm not. It could win BAFTA because BAFTA, like you guys mentioned, is kind of the national board of review of all of these major awards. They like to go out there, but I still think Boyhood's a pretty safe bet in Best Picture just because of the preferential ballot system, the way that it works.
Well, I think, I personally think if Birdman sweeps next weekend, DGA and BAFTA, I'm going Birdman all in. I won't have any doubt about it. There's still a shadow of a chance for Boyhood at that point, but for all of those top industry groups to go for Birdman, I think it'll be pretty safely out front, and it is an unusual Best Picture for them. It would be so unusually dark and kind of cynical, even though it does have a sense of, sort of uplift towards the end, depending on how you interpret the film. But I always thought it's a nominee, but it's too weird to win. But just looking back, we've had a few years of feel good. We've had a few years of sort of relatively safe choices like The King's Speech and Argo and The Artist. But remember, just a few years before that, we had No Country for Old Men. We had The Departed. We had these Hurt Locker. We had this string of dark, cynical, well, not cynical depending on your viewpoint, but definitely films that did not have that usual sense of uplift that the Oscars like. These were very dark, very gritty, very, very auteur oriented. So the pendulum could swing back that way a little bit with Birdman, and I think I personally think if DGA goes to Birdman, it's almost a slam dunk for Birdman at that point, just because PGA and DGA agreeing is, in the last several years, it's sort of hard to bet against. But yeah, that's where I stand on DGA and BAFTA coming up next week. Do you guys have, before we wrap up, any other final thoughts about awards to come? We've also got the Writers Guild coming up at some point, and like I said, so many other initials that I've lost track at this point. So do you have any final thoughts for the weeks to come before we maybe hopefully reconvene again in the next week or two for more topics? Ralph, let's start with you, Ralph.
I don't. I mean, I do agree on your last point. I wasn't including DGA. If Inarritu wins DGA, I think also Birdman. Then I will switch to Birdman because I think that because I'm talking just strictly on BAFTA. I don't think I had a chance. I don't know. I mean, there's so many. Like Rob said, I wasn't really interested a few weeks ago in these races, but now some of them actually have like some kind of juice to them that you kind of are excited about, and as long as the Imitation Game doesn't win a damn thing, I don't care what happens for the rest of the season.
I think you'll probably be very happy because even though the Imitation Game looks like a contender, it has all the right nominations. It's going to be the American Hustle of this year, I think.
God, I hope so.
Yeah, I know, and I know that will make you very happy. I didn't hate it as much as you did, but God, really, is it really that good that it deserves so much awards attention in the last 3 months? My goodness. So over the top.
Yeah, I'm very interested to see what the WGA what happens, especially in the original screenplay category, because I mean that is so weird that this year we have all these front runners are in the original screenplay category, with Birdman, Boyhood, and the Grand Budapest Hotel. So I can't wait to see what happens there.
I was wondering, you talked about a potential shutout for the Imitation Game. Just quickly, do you think it wins adapted screenplay at the Oscars just for lack of other options? Because it's hard for me to figure out, if not Imitation Game for adapted screenplay, where else? I mean, is it Theory of Everything? Is it potentially Whiplash? I'd love to see it go to Whiplash. I think that's probably the best screenplay.
That's what I'm thinking. I think it's going to be tough for Imitation Game, but that's really the only place that it could possibly win a trophy, I think. Really.
Yeah. I think I have it ahead there by default because it is a Best Picture nominee and it also has and it has the most nominations. But I could seriously see Whiplash taking that prize, especially because Damien Chazelle did not get nominated as the director. So if they wanna award him for that, this is that place to do it.
Yeah, and can I just say this, like Imitation Game, of all the things about it that you may like or dislike, I think the script was one of the things that I really didn't like. Like, if it's going to win anything, it should win for Alexander Desplat's score, and not for, or maybe Cumberbatch, I don't know, or Keira Knightley. Like, there were some good, generally okay things about the film, but the script really bothered me, and obviously a lot of us have a problem with the way this film has, let's say, whitewashed parts of the story, and surely a screenwriter has something to blame there for it falling short for what it could have been. And if all the things it's going to win, it could win screenplay. That kind of really bugs me.
Well, on that chipper note, we'll sign off for this week's edition of Oscar Hot Topics. And if you want to hear us rant and rave and really ramble incoherently about any number of others, feel free to visit our forums. Discuss any number of Oscar issues there that you have on your mind. If we have anything interesting to say about it, or in all likelihood, even if we don't have anything interesting, we'll talk anyway. That concludes this edition of Oscar Hot Topics, and thank you for watching.